I've been asked if I would talk about my materials for the motion tracker that I made for Blender Challenge 4, model a security device. And so, of course, what I made was the motion tracker. And here are some renders, so I'm just going to show you them. And of course, I'll put this in the render review video that I make for all of the submissions to this challenge. So here's one view of the tracker, and the other side, and we got one from the back. I kind of ran out of time, and I've got, as you know, kids and other things going on, so I haven't had time to do some things that I would have liked to do with the light, for example, and in general with the materials. So they're pretty basic things. I think if I was to redo this, I would make this section a lot more rubbery, less shiny, and I would do various other things. But what we'll do is we'll just head into Blender here, and I'll show you what I've got. Now, I have to say that there's nothing special about these materials, and there are probably much better ways of doing things. I did have a go at bringing this into Substance Painter, but I wasn't happy with the results, and I didn't want to just slap on a whole bunch of dirt. I do sort of like the new look as well. I'm kind of into it right now, but I'll do more stuff in Substance Painter in a while. So first of all, of course, the materials are going to be affected by the lighting, as everybody knows, and so I've got an HDR in here that I got from the internet, and I've just got a few point lights with various colors and strengths sitting around the scene. So if we were to come into, say, this section here, this green area, if I go over to the shading tab, what I'll do is I'll press Control Plus, and I'll maximize that, and hopefully you can see that. I'll go through some of this. Again, maybe not the best way to do things, maybe an old way, but what I'll do is I'll leave that up. You can either take a screenshot of that, or you can build it if that's what you want to do. So to texture coordinate, I'm just using object here instead of the UVs or generated to map. I really didn't do anything here, and I probably didn't even need it. I've got a Voronoi texture here with a pretty large scale. Everything else was just left default as it came in, and then this gamma node, and I'll show you that in a second. Coming into this mix shader, and off this mix shader, that goes into the fact, by the way, I've got another mix shader, and I've got a few diffuse here, a couple diffuses with a layer weight and with facing selected, and just the default 0.5, and then down here a glossy, and that leads into another mix shader with very low mixing here with a glossy there. So let's just see what some of these do to the model. So if I zoom in here, first of all, up here at the top, this gamma will affect this Voronoi texture here. So for example, it's pretty obvious, but if I just change this to 100, you can see these black speckles. 1,000. They're a lot harder to see, and I actually had it, I think, close to 2,000, so almost not visible at all, but just the tiniest little bit in there. This gamma, now if I change this to, say, 1, okay, so you set that wherever you like. So there's a little bit of grain in there with respect to that stuff. Okay, so now over to here, the layer weight. If I remove that, I'll see if you see any change, or if I change this value. Okay, got a little bit lighter there. Okay, I'm just going to leave that at 0.5. Let's have a look at these colors here. I didn't want it too glossy. So I had this at about 0.5 for this one. But let's say I was to change this color, make it a lot brighter, a lot darker. Okay, and this one. So I guess the blend of the two of them in there, and all being affected over here by this. Okay, right to there. It's a little bit of that. If I come down to here, actually, I think it might be a little bit more visible if I look at the top for that. Okay. You can see that brightness coming in there versus darkness. So it's just in there. And then finally this. All right, so that was the setup that I used pretty much for all of them. If I come over to this yellow, you can see that I've used the same basic node setup. I've just changed my colors here. All right, I've left the glossy like that. I believe it's all the same values. Okay, so I would have copied the material over and then just changed the color. This one goes back to that regular green. All right, if I come over to my black stuff, let's have a look at the screw. Again, the same basic setup. However, I think I wanted this a little bit more of a matte black, but a bit of shine, so I increased the roughness on all of these. And I even changed the gloss instead of over here from white to a sort of a grayish color. So that's how I got that. Now, it's the same on here, but it's a little bit, it's quite shiny, and I may not have liked that as much. So those are the basic materials, and then for the dials, of course, I did the video, so this block will be the same. And then I've got a cover right here, which is just a translucent, and if I hide that underneath, I've got that emission, and it's not very strong emission. If I were to change this to 50, let's say, yeah, you don't really see it very well. But I just had that at a rather low value. Okay, and of course I did the video on that. And the same thing was with, you know, this dial and this dial and these buttons. Okay, let's find that black main button. I will use that, just the regular black now that I think about it. But I would have come in here and on there, on that face anyhow, you can see I've got, on this button, I've got three materials. The main button, okay, the main button is just this stuff again, okay, and then the main button out is the translucent thing that I showed you before, and if I hide that on the inside, I've got that emission. And that's pretty much it. This piece here, same black, okay, toned down glossy, a little bit more roughness, and just adjusting the color, but it's the same as the black elsewhere. Like I say, that gave me the kind of shine that I wanted on this, but I could have maybe used a different material for this, and I probably should. I sort of started running out of time. For the screen, what I did was, this is the main body here. You can see I've got the green clean metal. That's this node setup I showed you before. I've got some black on the inside here. So the way I did this was I would have come in, right, and just selected polys that I wanted to have, you know, black. I would apply the black. Polys that I wanted to green would have the green. And then I had the main screen. Now there's one thing in front. I'm going to hide that. And there's my screen. And so what I did was I just took the faces of this and I UV'd them. Let's see if I can get in there. There we go. All right, so there's that's all it is. That was curved, and I created this graphic here. Let's deselect that. This green stuff here, I created that in my graphics program, and then I just brought it in and put it in here, and then to get it to show up, I did this. That's pretty straightforward. It's just this is my screen image into an emission. I just had it in a strength of 1. I just found with my lighting that was fine. So if I change this to 5, you would see it would be brighter. And I just didn't want it too bright. And yeah, so like I say, so I drew that. I brought that in. And okay, so let's get out. And where am I? And then on top of that, I've got, let's just focus on that. This plane, which is slightly curved. Okay. And on that, I've got this glass material. All right. I just happen to like to use this on this. So I've got glass. You can see my values here, transparent, going in there. And for this, I've got this math minimum node on the shadow ray here. I also increased the roughness to 0.1 just so that, you know, it wasn't like perfectly kind of clear. I just wanted a little bit of roughness so that it wouldn't pick up all the reflections all the time from my environment, because it was, you know, it was supposed to be like an alien motion tracker, and it was getting some weird reflections that didn't seem right. Okay, so you're looking at it like a little underpass. It was like, are there aliens down there? So anyways, you can just mess around with that and try it. And of course on that, I have a subdivision surface here, quite smooth, and a little bit, just a little bit of thickness. And that's basically it to get the effects that I was going for on the motion tracker. I guess I should say that these I also created in a graphics program and just brought them in, and I used shrink wrap on them here. And so what I think maybe I'll do is I'll bring one in and I'll just show you something. I'm going to select that face because let's say I want to put some text there. So I'll bring my 3D cursor there and I'll go Shift A, images, planes. And then I have to try and find where this stuff is. So let's see what we can do under textures, labels, and decals. So let's just find something. Do I have any text that I made? Gosh. Well, let's. All right. Let's go with this one because I can't find anything else. This'll work for what I wanted to show you. So I've got this here, and let's rotate Z 180. All right. So here's what I wanted to show you. It doesn't even matter what size you make this at, in terms of the dimensions of the image itself. I mean, as long as the text is okay, because you scale it a lot, you know, you're going to lose some quality. But what I wanted to show you was the cool thing is, I mean, just look from the side. So, you know, you have a document and it's 600 by 400. And you go, ah, well, that wasn't the right size for this. That looks dumb. I can actually just come in here and bring in an edge loop here, and bring in an edge loop there, and over here, and over here. And with the face selection, I can just actually delete these. It doesn't damage my text there. And I've still got my text. Of course, when you do bring in images planes, you have to enable that in the preferences. It sets up this little node tree itself, and it takes the image, okay, and it brings the color into the base color and the alpha into the alpha of the principal BSDF so that it's transparent. Of course, it is a PNG, so you need that alpha channel there. You can mess with some of this if you needed to, but generally you just want that. So let's say I now go back over to here. Okay, so I now have my my decal sort of. I'm just going to bring it close to the surface. All right, close to the surface, and then with that decal selected, I come over to the modifiers, choose shrink wrap, and as my target, I choose that. And I usually give it an offset of something like 0.001, just so it ever so slightly comes off the surface. And there it is, and I can still position it. You may have some issues on that, but I didn't have any problems there. And now I would have that text on there, which might be kind of cool on there. And then what I did, I've got some various other decals. I just wanted a little bit of damage, so I started out with this setting where I had an image, a decal, and that right away that went into the base color and the alpha. And then I said, okay, let's add like some grunge. So I found a grunge image, and I took that into a color ramp, and then I wanted a little bit darker, so I put in this darken node, and then I can just mess around with that, and I don't know, it worked for me. I adjusted the position a little bit so that it, the position of the grunge was where I kind of wanted it, versus again doing this in Substance Painter and messing around with that. I just did that, so there was a little bit of damage to those. I don't know whether or not that fits the theme of this, or whether they should be bright and clean, but I did it. It's done. It was more just for experimenting anyhow, going, okay, how could I use this in the future? So that's what I did, and that's how my motion tracker came out. And that should have the green clean metal on it or something to be able to see it. And that is it, my friends. So hopefully that was useful. It wasn't very very helpful, I don't imagine, to anybody. And just by the way, with this kind of stuff here, I just copied I went into here and I went like this because I didn't feel like drawing them. So I just grabbed this and I went Shift D, pulled it out, P to break it out. Scale it out a bit. And I brought it down. And I gave it a white material. Let's get rid of this and this. So it's white. And then I selected it and I went check or deselect and I deleted. And I got rid of the subdivision surface on it. And then I just made some adjustments. I scaled it. And I probably went in and I probably grabbed all of these little pieces there. Individual origins, and scale those down. And then I'll just make it bigger. I brought it in and I used shrink wrap. and very quickly I had a dial-like thing going around. Where is that now? Get rid of that. Okay, so that's how I did that up here as well. Okay, so anyways, hope that's helpful. We'll see you again soon.